Hello guys, it's Mark, aka The Drunk Bunny, back with you again today for another new video. Today I'm going to be doing a video that I have been wanting to do for a long time, and that's going to be a complete CD collection. I am going to go through every single one of my CDs that I own. Not going to spend a whole lot of time on each one, just going to go through them, maybe talk a little bit about the band, but not like the individual albums. Yeah, I filmed one of these a long time ago when I first started making videos, and it was not very good, and my collection has also changed a lot since then, so I thought I would go through this, also give you guys an idea of my music taste, because I only buy CDs that I really want to own, because I have Spotify, and so if I'm just casually interested in something, I'll just listen to it on Spotify and not worry about adding it to my CD collection. But I think I have a fairly varied one, mostly punk and rock. So if that's not what you're into, then you can find another video, because there's going to be a lot of it. But yeah, I'm having another drink tonight. Cheers. Yeah, good stuff. Alright, so let's get into it. I have them in alphabetical order from by band or artist, and within the individual artist I have them in order of when the albums came out. So without taking too much more time, we're just going to get into this. We're starting out with AC/DC, and we have High Voltage, which is the first album that was released in the USA by AC/DC. High Voltage. I've got AC/DC Live. This is the 1-disc version. There's also a 2-disc version of this that has about double the songs. And then I also have Black Ice. It's very hard to read that. This is the album that came out like exclusive to Walmart, and Walmart still has 1 million copies of this, even though it came out 10 years ago. If you go to Walmart, you will seriously see 1 million copies of this in different color variations. They might as well just hand one out to you when you go in the store. They've got so many of them. So yeah, AC/DC, one of my favorite bands, like my first favorite bands. I didn't really have varied music taste until I got to college. When I was in high school, I pretty much listened to popular music because I wanted to fit in with the popular kids. So I listened to the pop radio, top 40 hits. But one of the bands that I actually loved that wasn't part of the pop scene was AC/DC. I could say I probably loved them since I was like a freshman in high school, or even before then. Really love their fast-paced hard rock. It's great music to work out to when I used to work out like regularly. I used to listen to them all the time. Very good high-energy music. Still one of my favorite, if not my favorite, classic rock band. Alright, so moving on here. Next band I have is Against Me. This is their album Against Me as the Eternal Cowboy. This is not their first, this is their second album. I have Searching for a Former Clarity. New Wave, which is their major label record. I think they went to their own. Well, they had 2 major label records. This would be the second one. White Crosses. I have 23 Live Sex Acts, which is a live album. I think their second live album. It's a 2-disc version. It's got a lot of great songs. This was released after Transgender Dysphoria Blues. And then I have their newest album, Shapeshift With Me. 2016. So Against Me, I'm clearly, sorry about that. I'm clearly a big fan of Against Me. I saw them live when I got to see Green Day for my first rock concert last year, and after that I really delved into their discography. I knew of them before I saw them with Green Day, but I really got into them after I had seen them live, and I'd say they're probably one of my favorite punk bands of all time. Really good, fast-paced punk rock music. They also incorporate some good acoustic stuff as well, especially in their early records. So that's Against Me. Next up, we have Anti-Flag. This is the only Anti-Flag album in my collection. It's American Fall. This is their most recent one from 2017. Lots of really good Trump bashing in this, which I love. I can't stand Donald Trump. He's probably one of the most ridiculous people in the world. So Anti-Flag, political punk band, which I also love. I like it when bands aren't afraid to voice their opinions. Pretty much every record they have is political in some way, and it helps that I agree with them on 90% of their points. Alright, next up we have the All-American Rejects. This is When the World Comes Down. One of their more famous albums. It's got the song Gives You Hell on it, which is probably their most famous song. It also has I Wanna. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure if these other songs are familiar or not. There's that one. And then I've also got Kids in the Street by the All-American Rejects. This is one of their newer albums. I think it actually is their most recent. Came out in 2012, I think. But yeah, this was a song, another band that I got into before I really got into music. I used to listen to music, like I said, so casually. I would listen to pop radio, but All-American Rejects is a band that I actually fell in love with pretty young. I was probably a sophomore in high school, and I considered them and Maroon 5 my two favorite bands at one point when I was like a freshman, sophomore in high school. So, band that does mean quite a bit to me. Alright, moving on, we have Avril Lavigne, Let Go. This is actually a promo copy. I don't know how well you can see that, but it says promotion only, not for sale. This actually did not play in my car CD player when I bought this, so I haven't even tried listening to this. Extremely pop side of pop punk. Skater Boy, most famous song, it's on here. This is, I think, her best album. I listened to a little bit of her, but not much. It's saying something that I still haven't listened to this since I bought it. But yeah, Avril Lavigne. Very poppy. Alright, moving on. Now that's it with the A's. I have a lot of A albums. Moving on to the B's, we have Bash and Pop with Anything Could Happen. This is, of course, Tommy Stenson's latest project, of course, of the Replacements. I love this album. I think this was like my number 3 album or number 2 album, I can't remember. I think it was number 3 of 2017 when I made my list. I absolutely love this album. I only wish I would have discovered it sooner so I could have saw them live. But man, it was a really good album. This is like the epitome of rock and roll music right here. It's got 12 tracks. Really nice artwork in there as well. Bash and Pop, Anything Could Happen. I really hope he keeps this project going and comes out with another album soon. Moving on, we have Black Sabbath. This is the self-titled or untitled album. Pretty much the album that started metal for most people. Classic album. I'm a fairly big Black Sabbath fan. Not huge, but I do dig metal a little bit. I do enjoy it. Not as much as punk, but I do actually really enjoy metal. Really nice artwork on this CD as well. I already showed you the inside. Yeah, pretty much the album started metal. The only Black Sabbath album in my collection. Really want to get Paranoid and probably another one. Big fan of Ozzy, and I haven't really listened to a whole lot of the Dio stuff. But, so yeah, I'm not a huge Black Sabbath fan, but I do like them quite a bit. They're absolute gods of metal. Alright, moving on to another band that I have pretty much almost the entire discography of. That would be Blink-182. There's a lot of glare there. Blink-182, this is Cheshire Cat. Their first album came out in 1994. Blink-182 is one of my favorite bands of all time. Their song Mutt is what got me into pop punk. Mutt was featured in the movie American Pie, which I watched when I was probably way too young. I was probably like 12 when I watched that movie. And it was a movie that I related to big time as a kid, as a troubled teen, shall we say, a kid that was pretty much an outcast in school. I fell in love with those movies, the American Pie movies, and Blink-182's music was heavily involved in the first couple movies. It was very prevalent on the soundtrack. Mutt was the song that I remember, and it's still my favorite Blink-182 song. Yeah, still my favorite Blink-182 song. It was in the movie. They had other songs that came in on the soundtrack and stuff. So yeah, the Cheshire Cat's their first album from '94. This is very raw sounding for Blink. Blink is known as pretty poppy. They pretty much define pop punk for me. Like, if you're gonna ask me what pop punk was, I would give you a copy of Enema of the State. That's pretty much, you know, a genre-defining album. Carousel is their most famous song on here. That's probably my favorite. I honestly, I don't think I've listened to this album full time, or all the way through. Sorry. I know I just said Blink is one of my favorite bands of all time, but I don't know. Saving it for later, maybe. It's always nice to kind of keep a few albums, maybe kind of secrets. That way you can listen to them down the road, and that first listen is always really, really fun. All right. Next up, we have Dude Ranch, their second album. I think this is definitely one of my favorites, maybe my second or third favorite. I don't know. I really do love this album. Some of these are kind of damaged. Some of them came to me that way. Others I broke accidentally, the cases. I move around a lot being in college and stuff, so yeah, there's the track list. I know you can't see that. There's a lot of glare, but anyway. Blink is really hilarious, too. Another thing I love about them. Enema of the State, one of my favorite albums of all time. One of the best pop-punk albums of all time. Love that cover, too. I remember when I first bought this, my parents were very Christian. Very Christian, very conservative socially. They might have been, like, liberal politically, but socially they were extremely conservative. Like, I wasn't. If I said the word damn, they would freak out. So when I first bought this album, I left it out on the counter accidentally. And the fact that the nurse is showing off some cleavage, one of my parents, like, completely, like, flipped out. So that was a little bit of a fight there. But anyway, hilarious picture there on the background, or on the back. Like I said, love this album, one of my favorites of all time. I think that's another reason I related with punk so much, was because I felt like I was almost an outcast in my own house. So this is the Mark, Tom, and Travis Show. This is a live album. It was released, I believe, right after Enema of the State. Hilarious collage on the back there. I don't know how well you can see it, but it is just, there's so many hidden jokes. Love the artwork on this album. We have Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. Another one of their best. It would be really hard for me to choose a favorite. by Blink. And this case is completely broken. So, this one was actually new when I got it, but I think I dropped it or something, or stepped on it. Who knows? I usually try to take better care of my CDs than that. Alright, we have Self-Titled. To me, this was where Blink kind of fell off the tracks. I still like this album quite a bit. This was a much more emo-y, kind of dark tone to it. There are quite a few songs I really do like on this, but I do feel like they started to lose their way with this, and then of course they broke up after for a while, and then they came back with Neighborhoods, which is the only Blink-182 album I do not own. I don't own Neighborhoods. I do want to get it because it is Blink, but I don't like Neighborhoods. I really just don't. And then we have California, their newest album, with Matt Skiba, who's the new member. Tom DeLonge, of course, quit due to differences, as well as the fact that his pretty much sole purpose right now is proving that aliens are real, which I think is just weird. That's just bonkers. But that's Tom DeLonge for you. I believe in aliens. I just don't know how well you're going to prove it right now. You know, I think when technology advances, when we're able to go outside of our universe, I think we will find out that aliens are real, because it just doesn't make sense that we're the only life form that exists. There's infinite galaxies and universes and stuff. Alright, so kind of moved that stack over there. Hopefully it doesn't fall over. Next stack. This is going to take a long time, like I said. I'm going to move these over here, actually, so I can get to this stack. And another massive stack here. Look at how tall that is. Alright, moving on. We're still only in the B's. We're at Bowling for Soup. This is Drunk Enough to Dance. That's their second album, I think. And then I also have A Hangover You Don't Deserve. Their probably most recognizable album and most recognizable song, of course, 1985 is on this. Last Call Casualty, I think, is my favorite song off of this one. And this album has my favorite Blink-182 song, Girl All the Bad Guys Want. Not Blink. Why did I say Blink? Bowling for Soup. My favorite Bowling for Soup song, Girl All the Bad Guys Want. Love Bowling for Soup. They're just so much fun. Not the greatest band in the world. I'm not going to say they make the best music I've ever heard. They're just a lot of fun pop-punk, you know, goodness. Alright, moving on. We jump to E. I've got Ed Sheeran. One of the few pop artists that I still like. This was his debut album. Plus, all of his albums have mathematical terms as their title. This was obviously one of the albums that was super popular when I was young, when I was in high school. This came out in 2011. My favorite song on here is probably Lego House. The A-Team was, of course, his breakout song. Yeah, I really do like Ed Sheeran. He's got actually some soul to his music, and he writes meaningful lyrics. He doesn't just, his music is not empty like most of pop music is nowadays. And then I also have Multiply. I almost said Divide. Multiply by Ed Sheeran. Okay. Moving on to Fall Out Boy. This is the only Fall Out Boy album in my collection. This is from Under the Cork Tree. Definitely my favorite Fall Out Boy album. Not even close. Their new stuff is just ridiculous. It's straight up pop. There's like nothing to it. They used to be actually a pretty good pop punk band. My favorite Fall Out Boy song is on here. That is, if I can find it. Nobody Puts Baby in a Corner, number 5. That's my favorite Fall Out Boy song. Not the hugest Fall Out Boy fan, but, you know, they're okay. Alright, moving on. The Fratellis. This is Costello Music, their debut album. I love, love, love the Fratellis. Really good Scottish rock band. Indie, alternative stuff going on. Really, really enjoy their music quite a bit. I've been talking about them quite a bit on my channel because their new album came out recently. Okay, and we have We Need Medicine by the Fratellis. And In Your Own Sweet Time, their newest album. Alright, next up is the Foo Fighters. This is Concrete and Gold, their newest album, the only Foo Fighters album in my collection. I'm not the hugest fan of the Foo Fighters. They sound a little bit generic to me. I certainly understand why people love this band. Dave Grohl's a really cool person, and they've definitely got talent, but just something about them doesn't click with me. It just sounds, like I said, too generic to me. I don't know, it just sounds like generic alt-rock. Don't take offense to that. I just don't, for some reason, it just doesn't click with me. I understand why people love them. And I definitely like them as well. Okay. Next up, we have Goo Goo Dolls. This is Greatest Hits Volume 1, the singles. This has most of their early singles. Goo Goo Dolls was a band that I really liked before I got into punk. And I'd say when I got into punk was when I really got into music. Because like I said, I used to just listen to it very superficially. I liked Goo Goo Dolls because their music was catchy, really. That was pretty much it. Alright, next up is my favorite band of all time. And it's going to take a while to go through these. Green Day. This is their first album, 1039 Without the Slappy Hours. I own everything Green Day has ever put out, except for maybe, like I own all their studio albums and all their live albums, and I think all of their greatest hits compilations. I own pretty much everything they've ever put out. I also own quite a few of their stuff on vinyl as well. I love Green Day. Green Day is the band that got me into punk. They're also the band that got me into music, I would say. Like I said, I used to just listen to music superficially, and then I discovered Green Day. And they opened my eyes to what music can be. They really helped me form an emotional bond with music that I never really had before. Made me feel so much better about myself. I was always a loner growing up in high school, and didn't really fit in any of the crowds. Very lonely. I didn't really have any friends. And then I found Green Day, and they made me feel better about being myself and being different, and helped me make friends. My two best friends I've had in my entire life I met in college, and we bonded over politics and Green Day. I just love this band. They'll always be my favorite band of all time. Even though I don't listen to them quite as often as I did a couple years ago, I still love them so much. If I ever met Green Day, my life would be complete. I just need to meet Billy Joe. We have Kerplunk, their second album. Their first two albums, much more raw sounding. These were both on Lookout Records before they signed to a major label, which was what brought us Dookie, one of my favorite albums of all time. I do have a copy with Ernie from Sesame Street on the back, which is pretty cool. Those are a little harder to find because they took it off because of copyright concerns. But yeah, one of my favorite albums of all time with Dookie there. Insomniac, one of the most underrated Green Day albums. Much more raw punk sound to it, hard-edged music. Really, really love this one as well. Definitely in the top half of their discography for me. Another one that I think is super underrated is Nimrod. One of my favorite albums. I think this is my third favorite Green Day album. Just really, really love this one. Again, some more rougher-edged punk music, as well as some of the popular stuff. Of course, Good Riddance, Time of Your Life is the most popular song off of this album, but there's so much to be found in this album. This is really like an eclectic mix of what everything that Green Day can do, pretty much. Very underrated. Definitely recommend this one. Warning, which is probably their most experimental. This album completely tanked at the with like sales. It's the worst selling Green Day album, but it is super underrated as well. Really, really good stuff on this. Definitely don't sleep on it. Minority, probably the most famous song on here. It's probably my favorite, maybe my favorite song of all time. Yeah, really, really good music on here. Definitely check it out. That one definitely slides under the radar a lot. We have International Super Hits, which is the collection of greatest hits for Dookie to Warning, along with a couple newer songs at the time that were unreleased. Shenanigans, which is a B-side collection. American Idiot, my favorite album of all time. I got the flag back there. I love this album. This album just means so much to me. Like, it's perfect start to finish. I really developed an emotional connection to this album, and also it has some of the most political. I know Green Day has done a lot of political stuff, but some of the most blatantly political songs, American Idiot and Holiday. Just really, really love when they're angry, when they're upset, and they really produce great, great music. Just love that album. And then we have Bullet in a Bible, the live album, the American Idiot Tour. 21st Century Breakdown, kind of American Idiot on steroids. They got kind of wild with this one. Really, really like it. It's nowhere near as good as American Idiot, but I do really, really like this one. This is also the longest Green Day album. It's well over an hour. It's 18 songs. Best song on this, in my opinion, is American Eulogy. That's the two-part song towards the end of the album. Definitely love that one. Awesome as Fuck, which is the live album from the 21st Century Breakdown tour. That's where I have the namesake of my channel, the Drunk Bunny, from that logo and the bunny that they have at the Green Day shows before they come on. I've got Uno Dos Tres, the little CD box set here. This was the trilogy of albums. They came out in 2012. This is probably the worst Green Day material, but still very good. That's how good the band is. There's Dos. Entree. That's how good this band is. Even their worst stuff is better than some bands' best stuff. I still listen to these albums quite a bit, even though they are the worst, I'd say, Green Day stuff. And we have Revolution Radio, which is the newest album from 2016. This is just the standard CD copy. I also have the like lyric book copy of the album. And then from that album I have the CD single for Bang Bang. Comes in with a B-side, a live version of Letter Bomb. And then finally, to finally wrap up Green Day, I have the newest greatest hits album, God's Favorite Band. This has everything from, there's one song from Kerplunk, 2,000 Light Years Away, goes all the way up to their newest album, Revolution Radio, has 22 songs in total. There's 2 new songs. One of those is just a cover, or is just a different version of Ordinary World with Miranda Lambert, which is weird. Why would they have a country artist on a Green Day record? That doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't really sound that good. But then there's Back in the USA, which is the newest song released by Green Day back in November of 2017. Absolutely brilliant song. I love that song so much. Don't listen to it quite as much as I should, but it's only like 2.5 minutes long, but it's really, really good. Alright, so I'm gonna move this stack. Let's see. Put this over here. It's crazy to think that's all Green Day stuff. That giant stack is all Green Day. Alright, moving forward. Like I said, this was going to take a long time. Hozier, self-titled album. This is Scottish folk, folk blues rock music. Another artist I got into, well, I was pretty young actually. This album came out in 2014, and I got into it when the song "Take Me to Church" came out. Really good song, criticizing religion, which was playing right into the feelings I was having at the time. I would consider myself an agnostic atheist right now. Not that I want to really debate religion with anybody, but just telling you know where I'm coming from. But I was a Christian like the first like 15 years of my life or so. Around 16, 17, I started to question things, and this song was out on the radio around that time. I don't know if you can hear the sirens. I don't know what's going on. On a college campus, you can never tell. Some of these people are idiots. I didn't say that. Anyway, Hozier, self-titled album. Really, really good album. I've heard he's coming out with something new soon. I really hope he comes out with it soon. I hope it's similar to his first album, because I really loved that one. Alright, next up we have The Killers with Hot Fuss. Just a classic alternative album right here. Mr. Brightside, that's all I need to say. Next up we have Sonic Boom by Kiss. This is the only Kiss album in my collection, unfortunately. But this comes, not only is this the album itself, but it also comes with a Kiss Classics Greatest Hits compilation, which I love. There it is right there. Also comes with a DVD for a live show. I really do like Kiss. Not my favorite, but really good classic rock. Next up, we have The Maine with Forever Halloween. The Maine, another album, or another band, kind of new alt-rock band that I'm really getting into. Wish I had more of their music. Their album American Candy, which came out like 2 years ago, I think, 3 years ago, was amazing. I really wish I had that one. I also want to pick up their newest album, Lovely Little Lonely, which ranked pretty high, I think, on my best albums of last year. But this is the only one I have for now. This is still a really good album. I'd rank it third, though, amongst those three. Alright, next up we have Marilyn Manson. This is Smells Like Children. This is his, like, this isn't an official album. This is actually an EP. This contains a lot of remixes and cover songs. My two favorite songs on here, of course, Sweet Dreams Are Made of This, which is the cover from the Eurythmics, which is kind of what made Marilyn Manson popular in the first place. And then also I Put a Spell on You, another cover. Really, really love his cover of that song. It's super intense. But yeah, there Smells Like Children. I don't have his first album, which is Portrait of American Family. But yeah, Manson's an artist that I've just gotten into like the past year or so. I've got Antichrist Superstar, which is kind of his breakthrough. It's his third album. Yeah. And then my favorite Marilyn Manson album, Mechanical Animals. More glam rock, David Bowie inspired album, actually. Manson credits Bowie as one of the main inspirations for this album. It's another concept album. This time he plays an alien who is turned into a rock star, and then it's basically a commentary on how our society takes advantage of people and exploits people and the celebrity culture in our society. Really love this album. It's not as intense as most Manson records, so kind of an interesting one to check out if you don't like heavy metal or you don't like Manson's music. For the most part, I'd check out that one. It's actually kind of laid back. And then we have Lest We Forget, the best of. This is just a greatest hits album. I believe it was released after Golden Age Grotesque. There was a brief period there where I think Manson was thinking about quitting, and he released this. It's got 16 of his best songs, as well as a new cover of Personal Jesus. And then last but not least, got Heaven Upside Down, the newest album by Manson. This was number one of my favorite albums of 2017. Really, really loved this. This is the most intense Manson album, the most classic, aggressive sounding album since Hollywood, I would say. Pale Emperor was kind of a return to form, but it was more of a bluesy record. This is classic. It's a little bit of a combination of the Pale Emperor sound with classic Manson. I mean, there's a few tracks where he screams on here. Really, really like this album a lot. Marilyn Manson, I like him, but he's got some problems. We'll just say that. Alright, next up, another one of my favorite bands of all time. Still, they're the first band that I fell in love with, and that's Maroon 5. This physical copy is not, but this album is the first album I ever bought, a physical CD. Songs About Jane by Maroon 5. I've had at least 2 copies of this throughout my life, so I don't actually have the first copy that I bought, but this is like the second copy I've had, I think. But this was the first CD I ever bought with my own money. Very, very good album. Like, if you don't like Maroon 5's pop, or, like, new stuff, I understand that completely, but I'd check out this. It's really good pop rock, funk, soul-inspired music. It's actually got some instruments. It actually sounds like a band instead of Adam Levine's solo project. Really love this album. Still one of my favorites of all time. We've got It Won't Be Soon Before Long. Another solid album. Maroon 5, like I said, is kind of garbage now. They kind of just basically follow the trends, and it's like Adam Levine's carrying them the whole way. This is the opposite of that. This is really, really good. Some disco funk, rock. There's actually some really good rock stuff on here. Definitely recommended. This album is kind of where they start to lose their focus. Hands All Over. More towards the pop side of things here. Moves Like Jagger is the song that came out that, in my opinion, was the turning point for Maroon 5, when they went from being a band to being pretty much all about Adam Levine, and following every single pop trend that they could imagine. Still like this album quite a bit, but yeah, that's kind of where they start to lose me. Overexposed. I did not like this album. This is still my least favorite Maroon 5 album. Yeah. 5, which I think was a little bit better than Overexposed, but not much. I actually do really like Sugar on this album. It's really catchy. I know it's like super poppy, but it's really catchy. I do like some pop music. Like I said, I don't completely hate it. It's just not nearly as good as other music. And then we have their newest album, Red Pill Blues, which has an absolute terrible album cover. It just looks awful, like god-awful. But they do have actually a few good songs on here. I really like What Lovers Do. Lips on You is pretty good. Who I Am is probably my favorite on here. Whiskey's not bad. And Closure, the first like 4 minutes of that song are really good. The rest of it is completely useless. But anyway, Maroon 5. Continuing in a similar vein here, Matchbox 20, Mad Season. Another one of those early pop rock bands that I kind of fell in love with when I was pretty young. Same vein here, John Mayer, Where the Light Is, live in Los Angeles. The other thing is John Mayer, some of his stuff is too poppy for me, but he is inspired by blues. A lot of the blues musicians, Eric Clapton, B.B. King, trying to think of others, maybe Son House. Lots of really good Buddy Guy, old blues, the bluesmen that I really love blues music. I did a project on blues for a music appreciation class in college, and after that I started listening to blues. B.B. King is just in my opinion, the best guitarist of all time. John Mayer played with B.B. a lot, and he's been an inspiration, I think, on some of his music. And so he's more in blues-inspired stuff is what I really, really like. The rest of his music is okay, but there are quite a few good songs on this. This is kind of funny. This is Michael Bublé's Christmas album. My favorite Christmas album, actually. I do like Christmas music quite a bit. I just don't have hardly any in my collection. Then we're moving on to another band that I really love. Muse. This is The Resistance. Probably my favorite Muse album. The song Uprising is what got me into them. I really like Resistance. A lot of the lyrics on this album were inspired by 1984 by George Orwell, which is probably my favorite novel of all time. I love, love, love that book. I love the story. So anything inspired by that is going to be something that I enjoy. And I also have The Second Law by Muse. One of their more recent albums. This has the song Madness on it. Next up, we have My Chemical Romance. This is Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge. This has their songs I'm Not Okay, I Promise, Helena, Ghost of You. Yeah, lots of pretty good songs on here. Not the biggest My Chemical Romance fan, but I do really like them. They have a lot of energy. Well, they had a lot of energy. They don't really play music anymore. But this is also The Black Parade. This is actually an amazing album, The Black Parade. Deals with death, and it's kind of a concept album. I love, love, love this album. It's one of those that's perfect start to finish from my money. Teenagers is probably my favorite My Chemical Romance song. Yeah, just classic album, classic songs on this. Okay, we're moving along still. Got 2 stacks left. I've got a lot of CDs. I didn't realize quite how many I have. I probably have at least 100. And then I probably got like 20 vinyl records. Alright, another band here, Neck Deep. This is their first album, Wishful Thinking. This is more of a modern pop-punk band. This was their first album, came out in 2013. And then I also have Life's Not Out to Get You, also by Neck Deep there, of course. Okay, moving on. Classic album here, Nevermind by Nirvana. Not the biggest Nirvana fan either. Not really the biggest grunge fan, but just a classic album. I mean, amazing music here. I've got Terrible Human Beings by the Orwells. Really good album, one of my favorites of last year. Got a Fever You Can't Sweat Out by Panic at the Disco. Panic at the Disco is still a band, well, sort of a band. It's really just Brendan Urie now, that I still really like, even though they're very, very pop, in the pop direction. And they've got one of those kind of girly fan bases, in my opinion. But they still make pretty good music. I don't really like the new singles they just came out with recently, but they might grow on me. I actually do like his most recent album, Death of a Bachelor. But that's the only one in my collection for now. Moving on, I have Passenger. This is All the Lights. Passenger, really good folk rock artist. I really, really like his stuff. It's very slow. It's kind of a little bit depressing, which is what I like about it, actually. Like I said, folk. He really wants to bring back folk. It's kind of poppy as well. But yeah, there's a lot of soul to his music. Really, really like it. I also have Whispers. Alright, I have Queen's Greatest Hits, 1 and 2. This is the gold edition. Queen, one of the best classic rock bands of all time. Freddie Mercury is just insane how good he was. Rest in peace. Next up, one of my favorite albums of all time, Radiohead's OK Computer. My favorite Radiohead album. Didn't really get into it until about a year ago, maybe a little bit actually sooner than that. But yeah, it's already one of my favorite albums of all time. This is just crazy, crazy good. Yeah, Radiohead's a band that I've had trouble getting into because their music is a lot slower, but it really is brilliant. There's Hail to the Thief. This is a kind of a special edition. I'm not going to fold it out right now, but it has a really cool fold out. I think I did an unboxing of this at one point, so go check that out if you want to see it. And then I've also got the Best of Radiohead. This is a 2 CD compilation with their greatest hits. Almost there. We're very close. I got Loud, Fast, Ramones, their toughest hits. Really like the Ramones. They're classic punk band. One of the best punk bands of all time. So how could I not like their music? Wouldn't say I'm a obsessive fan, but really do like them quite a bit. Haven't really talked about them on my channel, but I mean, who doesn't know the Ramones? My favorite song probably is Rockaway Beach. Also really like the other songs. I Want to Be Sedated. I know that song front to back because of Guitar Hero. I played that song like 90 million times on Guitar Hero. Alright. Next up, Red Hot Chili Peppers with Blood Sugar Sex Magic. Classic album from the early 90s. Love the Red Hot Chili Peppers. They've got that nice funk rock thing going on. Really like their music. Not a whole lot more I have to say about them. I also have The Getaway, which is their most recent album from 2016. Very solid. Really nice record. Next up, I have the Rolling Stones. This is the very best, 1964 through 71. Another one of my favorite classic rock bands. I don't listen to them quite as often as I used to. I used to be really into them, but I've kind of stopped listening to them for a while anyway. Paint It Black, one of my favorite songs. Rip This Joint is another one of my favorites. I don't know if it's on this album. I'm trying to see if I can find it. I don't think it is. Anyway, Sympathy for the Devil, another one of my favorite songs. Then I have Blue and Lonesome by the Rolling Stones, their most recent album from 2016. Blues covers. I think this is 99% just blues covers. Rolling Stones were also inspired by blues back in the day. Like I said, I really love blues, so how am I not going to love that? I think this is actually the one and only hip-hop album, or rap album, in my CD collection. And a bunch of stuff just fell out. It's Run the Jewels, Run the Jewels 3. Run the Jewels is one of the only rap groups that I really like. Killer Mike is just amazing. I learned of him from Bernie Sanders' campaign. They did like interviews together and stuff. And then I started listening to his music, and I really enjoyed it. LP also, the other rapper in this group. Really solid music. Alright, last stack. Got 13 Voices by Sum 41, their most recent effort from 2016. I wish I had the rest of their catalog. I love Sum 41. My favorite album of theirs is probably All Killer No Filler. Classic pop punk band. Got Train, Bulletproof Picasso. Train, another one of those pop rock bands I liked when I was young. And then we go into my Weezer collection. So here's the Blue Album. Pinkerton, definitely one of my favorite albums of all time. My favorite Weezer album. Probably in the top 10 albums of all time right there. The Green Album. Maladroit, very underrated in my opinion. This actually comes with a numbered edition. It's kind of cool. I got number 242,784, so I don't know how limited that is, but it's kind of cool that they numbered it. And then their most recent album, Pacific Daydream, which is not very good, I'll be honest. But I still love Weezer, one of my favorite bands of all time. Again, classic alternative rock band. And then we rounded out with some White Stripes. This is Elephant, my favorite White Stripes album. Love Jack White, love the White Stripes. Really good blues rock. Jack White's one of the oddest people in music, but he's just so good. And then I have Icky Thump. And that is it. I can breathe. 50 minutes. It took me 50 minutes to get through all my CDs. I'd be interested to see how many I have. If anybody wants to count for me, feel free. I'm so tired. I spilled cider all over me. Anyway, that's it. Hope you enjoyed this very long video. I think you know what you're into if you clicked on it. So, yeah, I have a lot of CDs. I also have records that I did not show you. I have about 20-some records. Yeah, I really need to kind of cut back on my CD buying for a little while. I didn't realize I had quite so many. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, leave me a like. Hit that subscribe button down below to stay tuned for future content. And have an amazing day.